السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلت ولعن الله أمة ظلمت ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي. وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم.
61 after Hijrah, on the 10th of Muharram, Imam al-Hussain, along with his companions and the members of his family, were butchered on the land of Karbala within a battle that took place in Karbala and did not last more than a few hours. After killing Imam al-Hussain, there was a letter that was brought by Shimr ibn al-Jawshan the night before Ashura, Laylat Ashura. This letter was sent by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, and the letter stated that after you kill Hussein, فَلْتَطَئِ الْخَيْلُ صَدْرَهُ وَظَهْرَهُ, let the hooves of the horses stomp his back and his chest. Imam al-Hussain, on the day of Ashura, in the afternoon of Ashura, before Maghrib, Imam al-Hussain was killed, he was beheaded, and his body was made flat with the ground. Every single bone in the body of Imam al-Hussain was crushed and broken on the day of Ashura. And then, after killing Imam al-Hussain, they intentionally left Imam al-Hussain and his companions unburied. And they took away the clothes from Imam al-Hussain and his companions. On the 11th of Muharram, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he narrates, he says, they placed us on the caravan and they wanted to take us away from Karbala. He says, as they placed us on the caravan, I looked at the body of my father, Imam al-Hussain, and the bodies of his companions and his holy household, and I felt sick to my stomach. He says, at that moment, my aunt, Sayyidah Zainab, she looked at me, and she tells me, مَا لِي أَرَاكَ تَجُودُ بِنَفْسِكَ يَا بَقِيَّةَ جَدِّي وَأَبِي. Why do I see you crying and hurting yourself so much, oh, remaining Imam from the descendants of Rasulullah and from the descendants of my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he tells her, how do you expect me not to feel sick when I see that we are leaving my father and his household and his companions like this in the battle of Karbala, in the land of Karbala, without being buried, without respecting them, without respecting their bodies, leaving them like this? How do you expect me to not feel sick? At that moment, Sayyidah Zainab, she told Imam Zayn al-Abidin a statement that remains true until today. She tells him, لا يجز عنك ما ترى فوالله إن ذلك لعهد عهده رسول الله. She says, don't let what you see right now hurt you too much, because this is a covenant that Allah gave Rasulullah. There is a covenant, there is a pact between a group of people, a group of mu'mineen. They will come and they will bury these holy bodies. And then they will make this land, the place where your father is buried, a landmark. It will become a haram, it will become a shrine that year after year the shrine will be visited and it will be respected and it will be honored, and no one will be able to destroy this landmark. And then she tells him, وَلَتَجْتَهِدَنَّ أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ وَأَشْيَاعَ الضَّلَالَةِ عَلَى مَحْوِهِ فَلَا يَزْدَادُ أَمْرُهُ إِلَّا عُلُوًّا. She tells him, and then the pharaohs of the time, each time that we live, it has its own pharaoh. It has its own Fir'aun. She tells him the pharaohs of the time, they will keep trying to destroy the name of your father, Abdillah, but year after year and day after day, the name of your father will be glorified and it will be raised. This is what Sayyidah Zainab tells Imam Zayn al-Abidin while she's in the chains and he is in the chains. At that state, when she sees her brother butchered and killed, she tells him that this place will be a landmark for a group of people who have made a pact fi alam al-dhar. Before coming to this life, we made a pact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah speaks about the covenant that we all made with Allah. When Allah asked the souls, am I not your Lord? Every single soul said, yes, you are our Lord. Every single soul agreed that Allah is the Lord. And at that time, every single mu'min agreed to show love to the grandson of Rasulullah. In another incident, Sayyidah Zainab, she's in the palace of Yazid, in the court of Yazid, where she is also in chains, and the head of Abdillah is in front of him, and he has a stick and he's hitting on the head of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. At that moment, she saw him playing with the lips of Imam al-Hussain. She stood and she tells him, فَكِدْ كَيْدَكْ وَاسْعَى سَعْيَكْ وَنَاصِبْ جُهْدَكْ فَوَاللَّهِ لَا تَمْحُوا ذِكْرَنَا وَلَا تُمِيتُ وَحْيَنَا. She tells him, sheem whatever you wish to sheem, and plot whatever you wish to plot, and carry out all your efforts. By Allah, you will never be able to remove our remembrance from the hearts of the believers. And you will never be able to kill the revelation of Rasulullah. And your days are only numbered. And the day that the zalim will cry out, the oppressor will cry out and say, only if I was dirt, that is the day that you will feel the remorse and the shame, O Yazid. Sayyidah Zainab, while she was in the chains, while she was taken as a captive, these were her words, and her words remain to be true until today. Look at the miracle of Imam al-Hussain. Year after year, day after day, month after month, you see more people crying for Imam al-Hussain. More people visiting Imam al-Hussain. The majalis of Imam al-Hussain all over the world right now. Everywhere, every single city in the world, you see there is at least one majlis for Imam al-Hussain. Look at the Arbaeen, the 40th of Imam al-Hussain. Millions, they go out walking in the hot weather, cold weather. Terrorism, there's bombs, there's bullets aimed at them. Yet, nothing stops them from visiting Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. There's a reason for this. What's the reason? What's the secret? Why is it that Imam al-Hussain, year after year, 1400 years after his martyrdom, and Imam al-Hussain is more alive today than any other day? And year after year, Imam al-Hussain will be more alive. This is the ikhlas, the genuine love that Imam al-Hussain had for Allah. The submission that Imam al-Hussain had for Allah. Imam al-Hussain, he had one heart, and he gave it all purely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in return, Allah gave him the hearts of the millions. In return, millions of people wish to just stand in front of the shrine of Imam al-Hussain and say, Labbayka ya Hussain. They wish to stand in front of his shrine and say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah. This is the love that's in the hearts of the believers, and this is because of the genuine ikhlas of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. He gave everything to Allah. Everything he had, he gave it to Allah. You know, for some people, their family and their children are worth more than themselves. You see some parents, especially the parents, they say, let the pain come to me and I don't want the pain happening to my children. Imam al-Hussain, he saw every single one of his children die and be butchered in front of him, and eventually he went and he gave himself to Allah. In Ziyarat al-Arbaeen, the ziyarah that was recited today in Iraq, in Karbala, with over 20 million people visiting Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, Imam al-Baqir in the ziyarah, he says, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّهُ قَدْ بَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ فِيكَ. In a statement in the ziyarah, he says, I bear witness that Imam al-Hussain, he gave his muhjah in the way of Allah. What's muhjah? Muhjah is the blood that circulates the heart. Muhjah is the blood of the heart. This is the blood that keeps a person alive. Sometimes you can go and give blood and you're not going to die. Nothing's going to happen to you. But when you give your muhjah, that means you're giving your life. He says, Ashhadu annahu qad badal. He gave away the blood of his heart fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah. Why? Why did Imam al-Hussain give away everything? Imam al-Baqir, he tells us why. لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ. He mentions two reasons. He says, so that he can liberate the people from the ignorance. And he can wake them up from the confusion of being misled. This was the role of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussain, he was a reformist. Imam al-Hussain, his stance was a stance of reform, and he tells the whole world. Before going in his letter, he says, إِنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشِرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ في أمة جدي خرجت لآمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأسير على سيرة جدي رسول الله وأبي أمير المؤمنين. He says, I'm not revolting to cause fighting and oppression and bloodshed in the land, but rather I'm standing to bring reform. طلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي. In the ummah of my grandfather, I am the one. If no one wants to take responsibility, if no one wants to defend this young religion, I am the one who's going to have to defend the religion. And amr bil ma'roof, and joining the good and forbidding the evil, and reviving the dead sunnah of Rasulullah. The ones who came after Rasulullah, they butchered the sunnah of Rasulullah. They killed the sunnah of Rasulullah by killing the Ahlul Bayt, one after the other. He says, I'm standing to revive the sunnah of Rasulullah and the sunnah of my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. This was the objective of Imam al-Hussain. And Imam al-Baqir, he says, لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ, so that he wakes the servants and the slaves of Allah from ignorance, وَحَيْرَةَ الضَّلَالَةِ, and the confusion of being misled. After the day of Ashura, no one can come and say, no one can come and say that they don't know where righteousness is. Because Imam al-Hussain, he deciphered where haqq is and where batil is. Maybe before Imam al-Hussain, there were people that were confused. There were people that did not know where haqq was. Even though no one had the right to be confused, because Rasulullah made it very clear the day he appointed Amir al-Mu'mineen on the day of Ghadir. And over 110,000 Muslims gave bay'ah to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But there were still people that were confused and did not know where righteousness was. But after the day of Ashura, no one has a right to say, I don't know where the haqq is. Because Imam al-Hussain, he made it clear that haqq is with him. And whoever says otherwise, whoever says Yazid, haqq is with Yazid, then this means this person is standing and giving the haqq to a person who kills the children of the prophets. One who butchers the 6-month-old child of Imam al-Hussain. And only a hypocrite, only a munafiq, only a fasiq would say such a thing. Only a person who does not know Rasulullah and does not know the Quran would say that Yazid is a good person. Imam al-Hussain, he made it very clear on the day of Karbala. You either are with Imam al-Hussain or you're with Yazid. And if you choose Yazid, then you choose all the opposite of what Imam al-Hussain teaches, and the opposite of what Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Quran teach us. This is why Imam al-Hussain, he's a guide. This is why many people are guided by Imam al-Hussain every day and every year, through the majalis of Imam al-Hussain, through the love of Imam al-Hussain, through the remembrance of Imam al-Hussain. Don't be surprised to see so many people guided by Imam al-Hussain. Don't be surprised when you hear of people taken to the Sirat al-Mustaqim because of Imam al-Hussain. This is not a surprise for us, because he is Misbahul Huda wa Safinatul Najat. He is the beacon of light and the ship of salvation. And Rasulullah gave him this name. One day, Rasulullah was with his companion, one of his companions by the name of Ubay ibn Ka'ab. This hadith is narrated by Imam al-Hussain himself. He says, one day Rasulullah was with Ubay ibn Ka'ab, and Imam al-Hussain, he walked into the room. He says, as Imam al-Hussain walked into the room, Rasulullah greeted Imam al-Hussain, that 3-year-old, 4-year-old child. He tells him, Marhaban bika ya Aba Abdillah, ya zinata as-samawati wal-ard. He tells him, Marhaban. Marhaban, it's greetings to you. But this is said to a respected person. This is said to an adult. Rasulullah, he greets Imam al-Hussein by that word, Marhaban bik. And then he tells him, Ya Aba Abdillah. He gives him the title of Aba Abdillah. And this is also a sign of respect. When you call someone by his title. And then Rasulullah, he says, Ya zinata samawati wal ard. Hussein, you are the beautification, you are the adornment of the skies and the earth. This man, Ubay ibn Ka'ab, he was shocked when he hears Rasulullah treating Imam al-Hussein in this way. He tells him, Alasta anta zinata samawat? He tells him, are you not, O Rasulullah, are you not the beautification of the skies? There were some of the companions that they could not see Rasulullah showing love to his family. It was difficult for them. It was very difficult for them to see Rasulullah loving his Ahlul Bayt. And until today, you see there are groups of people who find it very difficult. They're willing to show love to the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, but they are not going to show their love to the Ahlul Bayt, even though this is an obligation upon every Muslim. Allah tells us in the Quran, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I ask nothing. Rasulullah, he tells the Muslims, I don't want anything in return for my guidance except one thing. And that is mawaddah, show love to my Ahlul Bayt. But there were some people that was too difficult for them. So this man, Ubay, he could not see Rasulullah showing love to Imam al-Hussein. He tells him, this is difficult for me to believe. Hussein, the adornment of the earth, yes, he's a beautiful young child. But being the adornment of the skies, this is too much for me to handle. Rasulullah tells him, Ya Ubay, I swear to Allah, the day of the Isra and Mi'raj, the day that I was ascended to the skies, I went up all the way to the Arsh of Allah, and I saw on the right side of the Arsh, the right side of the throne of Allah, written, Inna al-Hussain misbahu hudan wa safinatu najat. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we should not be surprised when we see millions guided by Imam al-Hussein. Millions taken to the Sirat al-Mustaqim because of Imam al-Hussein. Because he is the beacon of light and he is the ship of salvation. Imam al-Sadiq, he says, Kulluna sufunun najat. We are all of the Imams are ships of salvation. But then he says, وَلَكِنْ سَفِينَةُ الْحُسَيْنِ أَسْرَعْ وَأَوْسَعْ فِي لُجَجِ الْبِحَارِ. However, the ship of Hussein is faster and it's bigger in the ocean, and it can withstand even the biggest of the waves. Every year, how many people are guided by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? How many people are taken to the right path because of these majalis that we hold for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? How many people learn about the haqq and the batil because of the majalis, because of the remembrance of Imam al-Hussein, because of the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein? Imam al-Hussein, he gave everything he had to Allah, and in return Allah honored him with the ziyarah. In return, Allah honored Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam with the visitation, the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. You see, in every occasion, every Islamic occasion, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. The day, Laylat al-Qadr, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. The day of Arafat, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Mid-Sha'ban, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Arbaeen, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Ashura, there's a ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. In the month of Ramadan, every single day, it's mustahab to visit Imam al-Hussein. Why? Because Imam al-Hussein is the reason that these main days and main Islamic holidays are still alive until today. The Hajj, there would have been no Hajj without Imam al-Hussein, without the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein. Rasulullah's sunnah was dying if it was not for Imam al-Hussein. And this is why Rasulullah says, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. Meaning that Hussein completes me, I complete Hussein, and Hussein completes me. Hussein is from me. This is something that we all understand. He's the son of Rasulullah. He's the grandson of Rasulullah. But when Rasulullah says, and I am from Hussein, this means that my message would have died if it was not for Hussein. My sunnah would have died if it was not for Hussein and the sacrifice of Hussein. We see that the Imams, they would insist on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain. Every single event, the day of Arafat, the hadith, the famous hadith, it says that Allah answers the visitors of Imam al-Hussain on the day of Arafat before answering his own visitors on the land of Arafat. And the Imams, the children of Imam al-Hussain, and even Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam al-Hassan, they would insist on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Imam al-Sadiq, he tells one of his companions by the name of Hannan ibn Sadir, he tells him, "Oh Hannan, do you visit my grandfather Hussein every day?" The man, he says, "No, unfortunately, I don't visit your grandfather every day." He tells him, "Do you visit my grandfather Imam al-Hussain every week?" He tells him, "No, I don't visit him every week." He tells him, "Do you visit my grandfather every month?" You see, the Imam does not stop. He keeps insisting, he keeps asking. The man, he says, "No, I don't visit him every month." He tells him, "Do you visit my grandfather Hussein every year?" He says, "Yes, I visit your grandfather at least once a year." Then Imam Sadiq, he tells him, "Yes, oh Hannan, visit my grandfather Hussein." The man, he tells him, "It's very difficult for us. There are spies. There are people that want to kill us as soon as we get close to your grandfather's shrine." Imam Sadiq, he tells him, "Yes, I understand what you Shi'as go through. I understand the pain that you Shi'as go through. But if you cannot visit Imam al-Hussain from close, go on top of your roof, face Karbala, and say, 'Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdillah.' You do that, and Allah will accept that ziyarah, and Allah will give you the reward of Hajj and Umrah." Allah, He does not run out of, He's not like us when we give money and our money finishes, our wealth finishes. Allah can give as much thawab as He wants. And if you visit Imam al-Hussain, He says He will give you the reward of Hajj and Umrah. This is the importance of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain. In another hadith, Imam al-Sadiq, he tells one of his companions, he tells him, "I want you to go to Karbala and I want you to pray for me next to the shrine of my grandfather Imam al-Hussain." The man was surprised. He tells him, "You're an Imam, you're a Ma'soom, you want me to pray for you?" Imam Sadiq tells him, "Yes, go and pray for me next to the grave of my grandfather Imam al-Hussain, because there are specific places, there are specific times where Allah likes to be asked. There are specific times where Allah wants to be asked. This is why we have Laylatul Qadr. This is why we have Arafat. This is why we have Mid-Sha'ban. This is why we have the month of Rajab. Allah, He always answers dua. Allah, just like He hears me on the first of the month of Ramadan, He hears me on the 23rd of the month of Ramadan. Allah does not change. And I do not change as well. But Allah, because He wants to sanctify that day, Laylatul Qadr, because the Quran came down on that day, Allah says, "I will answer your dua on that day." The land of Arafat, Allah hears us all the time. It's not like the doors of Allah close the day before and the day after Arafat. But Allah says, on the day of Arafat, because it has its own sanctity, I will accept your dua on the day of Arafat. There's another place where the dua is accepted, and that is next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Sallu ala Muhammad. Of course, there are some people, some of the Wahhabis, some of the people who their minds are closed, their hearts are closed, and they do not see the proof in front of them. They will tell you that, no, you don't go visit Rasulullah, don't say salam to Rasulullah, don't ask Allah, because this is shirk, this is associating a partner with Allah. But we insist to go visit Rasulullah, and the dua will be answered next to Rasulullah. And there's a proof for this in the Quran. If you've gone to Hajj and if you've recited the ziyarah of Rasulullah, there's a verse that is recited in the ziyarah. And this verse says, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ جَاءُوكَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. If they have oppressed themselves. وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ. If they have oppressed themselves, Ja'uk, they came to you, O Rasulullah. And next to you, they asked Allah to forgive them. And you, O Rasulullah, ask Allah to forgive them. because of the dua of Rasulullah, Allah will forgive them. لَوَجَدُوا اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. This verse does not get any clearer. It is a very clear verse stating that Rasulullah does dua for the mu'mineen. Now, of course, some people, they'll tell you, but Rasulullah is dead right now. Like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the leader of the Wahhabi school of thought, he stood, he was holding a cane in his hand, and he said, this cane has more value than Rasulullah, because Rasulullah is dead in his grave, while I can lean on this cane. Well, this is a mentality of a group of people, but we have a different mentality. We believe that Rasulullah is alive. Rasulullah, just like the shuhada, he hears us and he sees us. Because the Quran tells us, وَقُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَرَى اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Act, do good, because Allah sees your actions. Rasulullah sees your actions, and the mu'minun. And the mu'minun in this verse are the imams of the Ahlul Bayt. Doing dua next to Rasulullah is accepted, and that is a place where Allah likes to be asked. Why do we do tawassul? Why do we ask Rasulullah? Why do we ask the Ahlul Bayt? Because Allah has asked us to do so. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu attaqullah wabtaghu ilayhi al-wasila. Oh, you people who believe, have taqwa in Allah, and use the means, use the wasila to get to Allah. One of the wasila and the head and the best wasila is Rasulullah. And also Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. He is the son of Rasulullah. He is the blood and the flesh of Rasulullah. So this is why we go to Imam al-Hussain. And this is why we visit Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Because Allah likes to be asked next to the grave of Imam al-Hussain and under the dome of Abdillah al-Hussain. We have many narrations that state that the dua under the dome of Imam al-Hussain is accepted immediately. Because you are asking in that position. So this is why Imam Sadiq, he tells his companion, go and do dua for me next to the grave of Imam al-Hussain. We see that the Imams and the narrations that insist on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain are many. Pick up the book, Kamil al-Ziyarat. In that book you will find many narrations that insist on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain. And you see that the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain is insisted under any circumstance. You know, we have the Hajj. The Hajj, it's wajib upon, it's obligatory upon every believer who is capable. Allah says in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. Hajj is wajib upon whoever has istita'ah, whoever is capable. This means that if you're not capable, Hajj is not wajib upon you. If it's dangerous to go to Hajj, if there are terrorists, if there are people threatening your life and telling you we will hurt you, if you come to Hajj, Hajj is not wajib anymore. Because there's no istita'ah anymore. You're not capable of going. This is something that all scholars agree about. But Imam al-Hussain, the Imams, they would insist on the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussain under any circumstance. And during that time, during the times of Imam al-Sadiq and Imam al-Baqir and the other Imams, that was the time that the shrine of Imam al-Hussain was attacked numerous times. Harun, he attacked the grave of Imam al-Hussain. Al-Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, he attacked the shrine of Imam al-Hussain. They would have all sorts of means in destroying the grave of Imam al-Hussain. Why is Karbala called al-Ha'ir? One of the names of the area around the grave of Imam al-Hussain is called al-Ha'ir. Ha'ir means the confused. Where is this word from? This is because one of the khulafa, he brought the water of the Furat. They dug and they dug and they tried to drown and cover the grave of Imam al-Hussain with the water. But the water, it was confused. It kept going around the grave of Imam al-Hussain. It kept going around and circling the grave of Imam al-Hussain, and it did not drown the grave of Imam al-Hussain. And this is why Karbala and the shrine of Imam al-Hussain is called Ha'ir al-Furat. It even confused the Furat. There was a time where the visitors of Imam al-Hussain, they had to pay hefty fines. They had to pay they had to give money. They were harassed, they were abused just to visit Imam al-Hussain. Don't be surprised. Until 10 years ago, how many people were able to go? Before that, there were people that did not allow visitors of Imam al-Hussain. This ziyarah, this million-man ziyarah, this is something very recent. Yes, there have been angels, millions of angels surrounding and circling the grave of Imam al-Hussain. ever since he set foot on Karbala and he was buried in Karbala. But for people, this many people, visiting Imam al-Hussein, this is something very new. And it does not have a precedent. There was a time, the visitors of Imam al-Hussein, they would go to visit Imam al-Hussein, and there were people standing in the way, telling them there's a new rule, there's a new law. This law, if you want to visit Hussein, you have to pay money. They would take out their money and they would give it in the way of Imam al-Hussein. The next year, they go and they tell them, this year the law changed. They had taken their money with them to give it to visit Imam al-Hussein. They tell them, this year the law changed. This year you want to visit Hussein, we have to cut off your right hand. They would give their right hand. They would cut off their right hand. Then they would go running to Abdillah. The next year, the same person goes. They tell him, give us your right hand. He gives his left hand. They tell him, give us your right hand. He says, last year you cut off my right hand. Here is my left hand. They cut it off and he runs running to Imam al-Hussein. Labbayka ya Hussein. The Imams, they insisted on the ziyarah of Abdillah al-Hussein under any circumstance. But these are the ones, the visitors of Imam al-Hussein, the ones who visit with pure hearts, these are the ones who Allah welcomes them to paradise. And Imam al-Hussein welcomes them, and Rasulullah will be the first to do shafa'ah for them on the Day of Judgment. One day, one of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq by the name of Muawiyah ibn Wahab, he was a companion of Imam al-Sadiq. He says, I asked for permission to visit Imam al-Sadiq. They told me, welcome. He says, I went in the room and I saw Imam al-Sadiq praying. In his sujood, he's crying. What is he saying in his sujood? Allahumma ghfir li wa li ikhwani wa li zuwar qabri Abi Abdillah al-Hussein. Oh Allah, forgive me and forgive my brothers and the zuwar, the visitors of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. الذين أشخصوا أبدانهم وأنفقوا أموالهم رغبة في برنا ورجاء لما عندك في صلتنا وسرورا أدخلوه على نبيك صلواتك عليه وآله. Who? These are the ones who gave their wealth. These are the ones who put their bodies in danger. These are the ones who put their lives on the line to bring comfort to the heart of Rasulullah, to bring comfort to the broken heart of Fatimah al-Zahra and Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Sadiq, he does dua for them. And then he says, I heard the Imam keep doing dua and keep insisting on dua while the tears are rolling down his face in sujood. The Imam, he says, Allahumma farham tilka al-wujuh allati ghayyaratha al-shams. Oh Allah, I ask you to have mercy on the faces that were burnt by the sun because they walked to the grave of Abdillah. Allahumma arham tilka al-khudud allati taqallabat ala qabri Abi Abdillah. Oh Allah, have mercy on the cheeks that were placed on the grave of Abdillah. The Shia, the followers, they would go and they would place their cheeks on the grave of Abdillah. Allahumma arham tilka as-sarkhati allati kanat lana. Oh Allah, have mercy on the screams and the cries that are cried for us. You know, every time you cry, every time you scream, every time you call out, Ya Hussein, Imam al-Sadiq is doing dua for you. Muawiyah ibn Wahab, he says, the Imam, he finished his prayer after a long dua for the zawar of Imam al-Hussein. He says, once he finished, I came to him. I tell him, Ya Aba Abdillah. The title of Imam al-Sadiq is also Aba Abdillah. He tells him, Ya Aba Abdillah, if you were to do this dua for someone who does not know Allah, I don't think the hellfire would touch this person. Imam al-Sadiq, he tells him, Ya Muawiyah, من يدعو لزواره في السماء أكثر ممن يدعو لهم في الأرض. He says, oh Muawiyah, don't be surprised, because the ones who do dua for the visitors of Imam al-Hussein in the skies are more than the ones who do dua on earth. Meaning the angels do dua, the prophets do dua, the angels, they do dua for the visitors of Imam al-Hussein. And then he tells him, لا تدع قبر الحسين. Don't leave the grave of Hussein. فمن تركه رأى من الحسرة ما يتمنى أن قبره كان عنده. He says, don't leave the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Go and visit. Because he who leaves the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, if he were to see the true reality and the true thawab of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, this person will wish that he was dead in his grave. Because he missed out on this great opportunity. And then he tells him, oh Muawiyah, do not visit, do not miss out on the great opportunity of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. And then he tells him, أما تحب أن يرى الله شخصك وسوادك في من يدعو له رسول الله وعلي وفاطمة والأئمة. He says, don't you wish to place yourself in a position where Rasulullah does dua for you, and Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra and the Imams do dua for you? If you visit Hussein, they will do dua for you. This is the importance of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein, he gave everything he had to Allah, and in return Allah gave him. In return Allah honored Imam al-Hussein. There was a man, there was a family, a husband and a wife who lived in Mosul, in Iraq, in Mosul, an area where people are not Shia. And this family was a Nasibi family, a family that hated the Ahl al-Bayt. And they hated Amir al-Mu'mineen, and they hated Fatima al-Zahra and Imam al-Hussein. This family, this couple, they did not have children. Many years passed and they did not have children. So they made a nidhr, they made a vow that if Allah gives them a child, they will make their child be someone who harasses the visitors of Imam al-Hussein, someone who abuses the visitors of Imam al-Hussein, someone who stops the visitation of Imam al-Hussein. After a few years, Allah gave them a child. Allah gave them a child by the name of Jamal al-Din Ali ibn Abdul Aziz al-Musali. This man, once he grew, as he was growing, his mother and his father were teaching him the hatred of the Ahl al-Bayt. Once he grew, once he was old enough, his mother sends him in the way to harass the Zawar, the visitors that visit Imam al-Hussein. This person died year 580 after Hijrah. So this was probably 500 years after Hijrah. This person, he goes and he stands in a position on the road to stop the visitors of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And that road, the people from Jabal Amil, the people from Lebanon and Sham, they would pass through. They passed through Mosul. They would pass through that route. He was there to harass the visitors of Imam al-Hussein. He stays, he waits for people to come, he waits for the caravan to pass. The caravan does not come. A few hours pass and the caravan does not come. He falls asleep on the side of the road. The caravan passes while this person is asleep. A few moments later, a few hours later, once the caravan is gone, he wakes up and he sees that there is dust. He wakes up and he sees that there's dust from a caravan that has passed by. It's on his face. He feels very shame that he was not able to harass the visitors of Imam al-Hussein. That night he goes home, he sleeps, and he has a dream. He has a dream that it's the day of judgment, and every obstacle that he passes, they say, send him to the hellfire. Take him to the hellfire. This is one of the people who harass the visitors of Imam al-Hussein. This is one of the people who has hatred for the Ahl al-Bayt. Send him to the hellfire. He says, in his dream, they take him to the hellfire, but the hellfire does not burn him. Why? Because the soil from the Zawar, the dust from the Zawar has come on his body. And because that soil, that dust on his body, it blocks the fire from burning him. He wakes up and he realizes that Imam al-Hussein, the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein will stop the punishment. He changes. He becomes a good person. And he says a poem. He says, إذا شئت النجاة فزر حسينا لكي تلقى الإله قرير عيني فإن النار لا تمس جسما عليه غبار زوار الحسيني. He says, if you wish to be saved on the day of judgment, then visit Hussein, because the hellfire does not burn one who has the soil and this dust of the visitors of Imam al-Hussein. This person, he changes and he becomes one of the poets of the Ahl al-Bayt, and he lives in Karbala and he welcomes the visitors of Imam al-Hussein, because Imam al-Hussein guided him through a dream. This is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein has miracles, and this is why we visit Imam al-Hussein. This is why we follow in the footsteps of the Ahl al-Bayt. This is why we follow the footsteps of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein, he's the embodiment of the teachings of all of the prophets. If you want to take the teachings of every single prophet, take it from Hussein. Don't we visit him and say, Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safwatillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Nuh nabiyillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Ibrahim khalilillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa kalimillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Isa روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. Imam al-Hussein, he completed the message and he revived the message of all of the prophets. This is why his ziyarah is very important. And the first person to visit Imam al-Hussein was Jabir bin Abdillah al-Ansari, the companion of Rasulullah, who came to the Karbala to visit Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He goes, he does ghusl in the Furat, and Atiyah, his slave, he takes him, because Jabir was blind, he takes him slowly walking step by step to the grave of Abdillah. Then he throws himself on the grave of Imam al-Hussein. This was the first person to visit Imam al-Hussein. He throws himself on the grave of Abdillah and he begins calling, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. He calls Imam al-Hussein 3 times, but he does not get an answer. He says, Habibun la yujib Habibah. وأنا لك بالجواب وقد فرق بين رأسك وبدنك. He says, how does a Habib not answer his loved one? He says, yes, oh Aba Abdullah, you always answer us, but now you have an excuse for not answering us because your head was separated from your body. He begins doing ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and then Atiyah, he tells him, oh Jabir, I see a darkness approaching from Sham. Jabir tells him, oh Atiyah, go see where this darkness, who is this? This might be the enemies. If it's the enemies, let us hide. If it's Zayn al-Abidin, let us welcome him. Atiyah, he goes. After a while, Atiyah comes back running. Jabir, ya Jabir, qum wastaqbil haram Rasulillah. Oh Jabir, get up and welcome the family of Rasulullah. هذا زين العابدين قد أقبل مع عماته وأخواته. This is Zayn al-Abidin. He came from Sham with his aunts and his sisters to visit Aba Abdillah. As Zainab was getting closer to Imam al-Hussein, she began to smell the grave of Aba Abdillah, just like Yaqub smelled the smell of the shirt of Yusuf. They came to the grave of Imam al-Hussein. The women, the children, they threw themselves on the grave of Aba Abdillah. It had been 40 days. It had been 40 days where the women and the children were separated from Imam al-Hussein. Zainab never separated from Imam al-Hussein her whole life. Now this was the first time she separates for 40 days. But now she comes back to a grave. They throw themselves on the grave and they have a matam, they have a ziyarah there. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he tells Jabir what has happened to them in this land. He tells him, Ya Jabir, ha huna dhubihat atfaluna. Oh Jabir, this is where our children were slaughtered. Ya Jabir, ha huna qutilat rijaluna. This is where our men were killed. Ya Jabir, ha huna subiyat nisa'una. Oh Jabir, this is where our women were taken captive. Sayyidah Zainab, she turned to the people gathered there and she began calling them as if she says in a poem, يا نازلين بكربلاء هل عندكم خبر بقتلنا وما أعلامها. Oh people of Karbala, do you know what has happened to the bodies here? Do you know what has happened to Imam al-Hussain? Do you know when he was buried? They answered her that he was not buried for 3 days and he was on the ground of Karbala for 3 days. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
Showing up on the first page of Google?